Hello everyone, welcome to Roto-Moulding Leadership. This is a special program by Technobase. It's a dialogue with rotational molding business leaders. I would like to say this is like a mini MBA on Roto-Moulding leadership, business management, or running the business if you're involved with Roto-Moulding business. So, as you know, this program is managed and owned by Technobase. For the benefit of all the audience, let me give you a quick introduction to Technobase, what kind of services we are offering to the roto-moulding industry. Technobase is an independent private company and recognized as International Resource Center for Industries and Technologies, established in 2005, based in Thailand. Our fundamental services are focused on the professional education and also business services. We offer a broad range of services. We organize exhibitions. We offer training programs and conferences. We organize webinars. We also have business networks. We have publications. We also help in the talent search and the knowledge test, consulting, business matchmaking, and also a news server where we have various online programs out there. When it comes to the business focus, we have a broad spectrum. Of course, polymer industry is one of the main segment of the Technobase. We offer services, all the services to the rubber industry, plastics, polyurethane, adhesive coatings. We also on the process technologies. We talk about chemical engineering or chemical technology, energy environment, water and membrane technology, filtration, separation, advanced materials and process technology. Again, it's all involved with education, business services, and our services are pretty much global. So what do we offer for the rotational molding industry and businesses or the professionals involved? We organize exhibition. Roto-Moulding Trade Expo. Actually, we used to organize an exhibition on ASEAN Roto-Moulding Forum in 2016, and we are about to organize again the next year in March in Bangkok in a trade show. It will have an exhibition. It's an in-person event and conference and also networking events. We are now about to open for the booth reservation, and if you're interested, you can check with us. And we have options of 9 square meter or 18 square meter shell screen booths. The floor plan is ready, and anybody interested companies can reserve the booths. But we do have, as I mentioned, one of these areas in professional education. We developed a master class with Martin Spencer, Roto-Moulding Masterclass. In this masterclass, we have 10 modules covering A to Z about rubber rotational molding, with basics, design, operational machinery aspects, cost reduction aspect, automation issues. So we are organizing during October 18th to 19th. It's a paid basis masterclass. You can check it out details with us if you would like to register for it. So we also have a business forum, Roto-Moulding Business Forum. This is an online forum focused on the technical and market developments of the roto-moulding industry. All the delegates can register for this session for free, and we organize 2 times a year. It's an online program. And we have, of course, we have this sponsorship-based program. So the companies can sponsor. They have 2 options of the sponsorships. But the next edition is upcoming edition is on 8th June. We're organizing edition 2. We're pleased to say we have sponsors from Metro Matrix Polymers, PSI brand, Rising Sun Roto, Persico. There will be many others will be joining. We're thankful for all the sponsors supporting this Roto-Moulding Business Forum. Some of the topics they'll be presenting, how to brand plastics with the confidence by PSI, and aesthetic mold design and techniques for roto-moulding by the Rising Sun. There will be a lot of panel. There will be discussions as well, technical discussion as a part of this forum. It will be lively, so I encourage all of you to be part of this business forum, which will be happening on the 8th June. Other thing is we have the leadership. This is like today what you're joining. Roto-Moulding leadership. As I mentioned to you, see, we can learn a lot from these experienced business leaders and about good practices, bad practices, how to overcome the crises, and what kind of changes we can make in running the business smoothly. This aim for the young people to understand, how to sustain in the roto-moulding industry. So today we have a well experienced business leader be part of this roto-moulding leadership program. We also have other services which are interested in for this service are offered for not only just roto-moulding, other polymer industries. We help on the integrated marketing, branding assistance. We also organize a customized event if some customer interested in to develop their business. Okay, so these are services we have. And we do have the video platform on YouTube, Technobi channel. So today's program on the roto-moulding leadership, it will be available on YouTube also within next 24 hours time to view it. Okay, so, and for any assistance you need, please feel to contact me. And I think most of you have my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. That's about Technobase, and so I'm hoping that you have a better understanding about the what kind of services we are offering to the roto-moulding industry. So let's invite our the host for this roto-moulding leadership, Mr. Martin Spencer is a managing director of the Unique Roto based in the UK. I think most of you know him very well. He has more than 30 years experience in the roto-moulding industry. He has a worldwide reputation for innovation, and also his hands-on knowledge on the product and machinery development, including the edge control system and temperature measuring software. He was MD of the Rototech in UK for 21 years, building a reputation for pushing the boundaries of both products and processes. So let's welcome Martin to take over this session of the roto-moulding leadership with Bill Spenceley.
Hello everybody, thanks for joining us today. We have an interesting subject to talk to today. Bill Spenceley from Lethbridge in Alberta, Canada, and he runs a roto-moulding business there called Flexahopper that has become one of the leaders in sustainable roto-moulding and sustainable power in the world. So hopefully it'll be an interesting subject. So I'd like to introduce you to Bill Spenceley.
Hello, Martin.
Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, everyone from Canada.
Yeah, you're actually in Toronto, I think, at the moment, rather than Lethbridge. Yeah, okay, good. Right, so let us get started. Just tell us a little bit about Flexahopper. Would you like to show your video first, or?
Sure, if you guys want, that's fine.
If we show the video, and then you can give us a bit more background, and then we can start the chat after that. So if we could have the video, please.
We are Flexahopper, a plastics manufacturing company that produces a wide range of products for industries, including oil and gas, agriculture, marine, poultry, water containment, and aerospace components. But it isn't just what we make that defines us. It's the people we entrust to shape our brand. A team of problem solvers, leaders, thinkers, mothers, fathers, students, all coming together to create something that will last for generations, all while using 100% green-sourced energy. We aren't just making products, we're making a difference. Welcome to Flexahopper.
Okay, Bill, so tell us a little bit about how Flexahopper got started, and then we'll talk about how you got involved with it.
Okay, well, I got to correct you first. It's Flexahopper.
Flexahopper, sorry.
But no, it's fine. Everybody does that. But they, it's a business that's been, I think we're celebrating our 55th year now in business. And we're, probably the largest road molder in the Pacific Northwest. And we sort of work out of a community in Western Canada called Lethbridge, Alberta. And we serve a lot of different sectors. We do We've done oil and gas in the past. We've got a strong oil sector in our area. We've also done a lot of agricultural products. We've done aerospace products, industrial, food processing applications. And we've tried to be a more technical molder. We've gone after a lot of more value-added, tougher products to build. But it's interesting. We keep coming up with new innovative ideas, and we try to do it in a sustainable way as well.
Okay, so how did you get involved in roto-moulding? Did you choose it as a career, or did roto-moulding choose you?
I would say it chose me, because I originally had planned to become a dentist, and was going through the you have to take pre-med, just like the medical students. It's a 2-year program, then you'd go on to professional school after that. And I actually really started to enjoy chemistry, and went a little bit further into it, and actually had an opportunity to go up and see some friends of mine that were a year ahead of me that were already in the dental program. And I realized, boy, oh boy, I don't think I want to do this the rest of my life. And so I put the focus on chemistry, and then went into chemical engineering. And I actually had a job in the Middle East right after graduation. And my father, who was the manager of and part owner in the company at the time, asked me if I'd be interested in joining him. And I think I made the right choice.
Okay, so your father was involved in the company, and you came to join him then, yeah?
Yeah, my father was he was an engineer, plastics engineer with DuPont Canada in Eastern Canada, and he had an opportunity, joined Flexahopper, which was sort of a subsidiary of another company in our area. And he just took over as manager of product development and slowly started to buy into the company. And finally, back, I think it was probably about 1985, we actually bought out all the other shareholders and made it a family business. My father, he's since retired. He's been out of the business probably close to 30 years now. So I've been running the show ever since.
Okay, so what are the biggest difficulties you've had to overcome in that time with the business and with the products that you make?
You know, there's two things. I mean, if you look at the technical side or the roto-moulding side, you know, at the time when we first started up, roto-moulding was still pretty new. I mean, the company was founded in '67 by a couple of people that were looking at making a product, and roto-moulding seemed to be the way to go. And so they made these little homemade machines. As we grew bigger, we were still building our own equipment, and we found that the challenges were that we didn't have some elements in the actual commercial machines that would really help us with some of the typical parts that we were making. So that, you know, as an end user, we knew what we wanted. And so I think, you know, some of the challenges were getting equipment, getting things that we needed to work with. I think one of the other things that was also important was that it used to be a real art form for us. So if I had a new product, we would have the surface area of the mold. We knew what the weight was going to be for the certain wall thickness we wanted. And then you would say, okay, put it in there for 15 minutes. It'd be either undercooked or overcooked. And when I saw, there was a seminar in, I think it was in Cleveland, or no, it was Washington, DC, for ARM, and they brought in the Rotolog. This was the product that Paul Nugent had developed, so you could do the internal temperature monitoring. And at the time, I think those things were about $28,000, and I just bought one right away. I knew it was an expensive purchase, but it took roto-moulding from an art form into a science, and we still use those tools every day. The other element of challenges that I had was on the management side, because when I first joined the company, or took on a management role out of university, I think we had 6 employees on the floor. We now have close to 60 employees on the floor, and even though you think you can run the business like you did before, as it grows, it'll get ahead of you, and you have to really think about the management skills that you need. And sometimes it's better for you to leave some people to do some of the managing, they'll do a better job than you. So I think that, as a company, as we grew, I had to go through several iterations of how was I going to manage a business this size. So it keeps evolving. We keep growing.
Okay, and which business sectors over the years have been the most successful for you in Flexahopper?
It depends. I mean, we've done a lot of things where we've done some complicated parts, getting into foam-filled applications. We've done a lot of assembly work. I would say probably 50-50 now. It used to be quite a bit more on the proprietary side, that we had some of our own product lines. Now we've shifted a lot more to contract molding. We've started to really do a lot of high-end products that we're actually building these products, packaging them, and sending them out directly to the customers at that point. They're not even going through our customer that's the owner. We just we're a direct shipment to these distribution centers. So I think it's evolving, but we've always tried to go after some products that were more value added, as opposed to everybody can make tanks. And it's a commodity, and usually there is a race to the bottom as fast as they can. So we've always steered away from that and focused mainly on some of these more complicated parts.
Okay, a lot of people find that proprietary products are easier to control their profitability because they have total control of the pricing in the market, whereas making custom products is more difficult. Have you found that, or are you able to make profit margins on both that you're happy with?
Well, I guess, if you think about business, when we're in business, our role is to try and find an unfair advantage in the marketplace. And so if you want to just make simple proprietary products that you don't have these super tight controls, then that's fine. But I think that we've always strived to be a better molder, and so we sort of look at some of these projects on the custom side where there's more demand, and just sort of take the approach of, hey, let's get our game faces on and let's make this happen. And so we've slowly worked into that, and I think that it's a long process to get to that level. There are some products that we've built. We've done a lot of R&D products that never ever really took off, that you were just pushing the envelope too far, and you try to pull out a lot of tools. I mean, for me, it's exciting, that kind of work where you're trying to pull all these tools out, try different things, make things work. But sometimes you might find that it's maybe not a good application for roto-molding, and you need to move on. So.
Okay, but you're happy with the 50-50 mix or so that you have at the moment? You think that is right for your business?
Yeah, quite happy with it. I can tell you that during recession years, when you've got some of your own proprietary products, you have a little bit more control. I know that in 2008, when things really took a downturn in North American markets, some of our industry people were down 30%. That's pretty tough if your sales are dropping by 30%. And a lot of the molders that I knew, friends of mine that were all contract molding, one of them saw 90% of his business drop off. That's a challenge. So I think it's probably good to have a good mix. And so I think we'll always maintain that, and have whatever sectors are driving growth. Let's focus on those, but keep a mix. I think it's a good idea to keep a mix.
Do you have a lot of competition locally or within Canada or globally that compete with products that you make?
We have, well, our nearest competitor in our industry used to be in our same town. They aren't here anymore. There's another company that's probably, I think the closest one is 120 kilometers away. But we have large competitors that we deal with on the international side, because we export quite a bit of product. That you need to, it keeps you in top shape. It's I embrace competition. I think it's great, and you need to focus on what you do well. And so I think, as far as competition, it's always there. You're always going to find it there. I feel sorry for some molders in some parts of the world. In particular, I'm thinking of some of my colleagues in the Midwest U.S., where they've got, 5 rotomolders will be within 10 kilometers of each other, and it's a crowded field.
But again, do you think that your proprietary products help best with that, or do you get those copied and people competing against those as well?
Yeah, well, proprietary products definitely helpful, but in some of the products we've had in the past, we've had patents, so you have some protection there as well. That's not always the case, but we've sort of always tried to make sure that when we were building products that if they're more complicated to make, it weeds out the competition a little bit. Makes it a little bit more, it's not as crowded a field. And people will copy your products, excuse me, people will copy your products all the time. And, hopefully when they do copy it, they make it better. But a lot of times we find that doesn't happen. They just try to knock it off and try to make it cheaper. And you have to keep moving ahead. I mean, it's really easy to feel sorry for yourself in a marketplace where you see, oh my goodness, we've spent all this time developing a product and then somebody copies it. You've just got to develop a thick skin, and you got to keep going forward and try new things and try to stay ahead of the pack.
Yeah, I'm a great believer in that. So it's the way we did business as well, is to try and pick the more complicated parts that are harder for people to copy and keep innovating, really. So you mentioned a while ago the buying the Roto-Log. What would you say that was the piece of equipment that has made the most difference, a single piece of equipment that's made the most difference to your business? Or do you have other pieces of equipment that you've bought that you think are key to the way your business has developed?
Well, I think, I would say some of the things that we've spent money on that I think a lot of molders miss out on or don't realize the value of it is that we've got a lot of testing equipment, and we have quite an elaborate lab for our industry. We test a lot of materials. We've been able to, make sure that when we produce product that we export, that maybe it goes to Australia, that we don't have a quality issue. And so being able to test materials, I mean, we've got an Instron, we have a melt indexer, we do a lot of things when we bring material in to make sure that it's good. And if it's not good, you don't want to be putting it in your product. So I would say, testing equipment, that's been great for us. I mean, we don't want to be machine makers or machine builders. And there's a lot of companies now that are making equipment for roto-molding that do a great job. And I think that there's some of the mold makers or mold makers are also making some incredible products that we can sort of push the envelope in the process. So I guess, machinery, it's definitely a great thing. Testing equipment, I think, is another thing. And like I said, if you've got tools that you can really get to understand the process, if you have a challenge, and listen, when you make a part for the first time for a client or for yourself, you might find, hey, there's some hiccups here. What's going on? And if you've got tools to be able to help you narrow down what the challenge is, you've got a game-changing advantage at that point.
Okay, we've got a couple of photographs of your lab. We'll just put those up and you perhaps explain them to us.
Sure. So this is our lab. We've got I've got 2 full-time researchers. And we've done a lot of things with polymer development as well. We've done some modified polymers. We've also done some process improvements in there, but we test there's a lot of science going on, a lot of chemistry. And we're actually working with the local university on some collaborative project as an industrial partner. But this lab was sort of a second version of an earlier lab that we had. And Martin, when you came to my facility, you would have seen the first lab.
Yes,
this one 2 years ago. This was special purpose built for some new process technology that we've been developing, and it's quite elaborate. But you know, we've added, in fact, since this picture, there's probably about 6 more pieces of equipment. I wish I had a bigger table. But and it, you know, it all pays for itself. When you've got, you know, innovative products, you need to have tools like this to be able to work and develop them.
Okay, so we'll go back to the discussion for a while. The with what's happening in the world at the moment, with fuel inflation and material costs going up, are you worried about the future, or do you think there's a way forward for rotomolding with what is happening?
I think, you know, as far as I mean, I've been in this industry, you know, for 40 some years now. I've been through a lot of cycles. We've seen the resins and the energy costs all change. They all end up coming back into stability if they go out of whack for a while. So we definitely have challenges. I mean, we've had to adjust our pricing. Everybody understands inflation is really becoming a major factor. We've had to be pretty innovative on how we retain staff as well. We've been luckier than some molder colleagues of mine, how they've had to deal with it. I think, though, on the long-term approach to rotomolding, if you take a look at our process, and if you look at some of the Queen's University studies they did, they would show that if you took the energy going into the process and converting it into kilograms of finished product, that the efficiency is between 3 and 8%. Terrible efficiencies. And I think that is probably going to be a big challenge for us, in particular going down the road. I know that some countries in Europe, I know New Zealand, others are starting to look at shifting away from fossil fuels, and all of us are using, you know, some kind of natural gas or propane in our process, is getting away from those energy sources, and it's going to be tough. I've traveled all over the world and I've seen what other companies are doing, and some real innovators out there trying things. I think that in the long term, we're going to see a lot more electrified molds, or ways to being able to use electricity to get away from that. That will challenge growth, not now, but I think we should be aware of it. I mean, I sort of think long term. I always look at where the long-term challenges are, and I think that's going to be one of them for us.
Yeah, and you touched briefly there on labour. Obviously, a lot of the world has been suffering from labour shortage. Has that affected you in Canada, or have you come out a little better than most places?
We're definitely still having our challenges. One of the things I think you need to really work at is you've got to have people feel like they're part of something. You have to sell the job. You know, hey, I'm in my 60s. When we got jobs, it was great. Head down, you did your thing. Nowadays, it's a lot different. You've got to look at sort of a balance, work time life balance for people. And we've tried to do that. Even on a shop floor setting, it's tough to do, but you know, we've tried to retain the ones we get. When you get employees, retain them. It's a lot easier to keep those guys than it is to start just a big revolving door. I know that there are some other parts of the world that there are super big challenges with labor, and I think it's going to be a challenge for a while.
How's the challenge? I mean, have you had to increase wages to keep people, or have you tried other ways of doing that?
No, we had to follow the market. But you know, one of the things that we found is that you'll hire people, and you know, they may just walk away because of 25 cents more an hour, and that's a challenge. So you can't just play the money game all the time. You've got to look at what can we do here. You know, if we put them on a machine with some other workers, how are they treated? Are they welcoming them, or are they just sort of, hey, you're the new guy, you're the grunt? I think that approach ends up giving you a high turnover. So you've got to really focus on getting your existing staff to make sure that they're creating a good environment for these people that you've got. One of the other things we've done is we've tried to show them some of the big picture items, like learn about what we make. We'll have some people be working on products that it's this little widget, and I'll tell them this is going on a $500,000 piece of equipment, and it's going to be very visible. So you're making a big, and they'll export this product somewhere in the world. So it's sort of, you try to instill in them some pride in what they're doing. And we also try to really show them a lot about the process. We want them to understand it and to become problem solvers. So we've tried to introduce a lot of lean manufacturing, which engages your workers. It's definitely a challenge. It's going to continue to be a challenge because I think, we all would love to automate and not have to worry about this, but there's some limitations on what you can automate in our process if you're doing it in a conventional machinery.
Yeah, following on from that, I mean, have you started to automate, and do you see yourself bringing more equipment in for automation?
What we've done is we've planned our process better. If you take a look at some of your machines, how are you sequencing, especially if you've got multiple, like if you've got carousels and you have multiple arms, and you may find that you've got a bottleneck because of one cycle, one of the parts is a long cooling cycle or a long heat cycle, and it's screwing everything else up as far as your production. And what we've really focused on the industrial engineering side and said, okay, let's work on our tack times. Let's look and see, maybe we're going to change an offset arm in position number 1 and replace it with a straight arm and shift a bunch of product over. And you can, and we've done it ourselves, that just by changing the orientation of your machine, we've increased one of our machines 40% in output. Again, though, we also try to give them tools on the shop floor that instead of 2 operators, you could maybe do it with 1. And we'll look at, there's times when I'll actually grab some overalls and I'll get on the shop floor with the guys and I'll work with them. I'll be trimming their parts. I'll be up there loading their tanks. And I've got a notepad and I'm taking notes because I'm the big guy. I get to do whatever the company is going to do. And I'll say, look, we need this. You need this piece of equipment to make your job easier. So I think we can reduce, if we really look at the process and take input from our staff, we can find ways that you can reduce the number of people you need to do a particular task. That's an advantage. On the automation side, for instance, if we look at some of our grinding or pulverizing or powder weighing, we have all that automated so that our operators don't have to do those tasks. So we try to shift the easy, not so much easy, but the tasks that you can automate more readily, we've definitely automated those. And we're looking at other things that we can do down the road as well. And I think that, as we start to see a shift towards more electrified molds, there's a lot more things you can do with electrified mold as far as automating things.
Yeah. Okay. So do you find that when you introduce things to make their job easier, as well as increasing productivity, you also get an increase in quality? I found that when I've worked with people, that if you can make the job easier and leave the operators with the more interesting parts, then your quality improves as well as your productivity.
Oh, definitely. You need to you're not trying to drive these guys like slaves. You need to give them breathing room that they can manage, and as they get more organized, they'll have more time. But you got to realize that you're not just paying for them to be laborers. You want to use this cranial tissue that they've got up here too. And I think that if they understand, and it's a big part of it is understanding the process. If they understand the process more, they're going to be making better products. And if you've got, for instance, if you've got some tool that you're using that you've developed to help them with their tasks, maybe it's less strain on that particular part. You don't have rejects. I mean, it's terrible. We end up making good products until it comes out of the mold, and then we have problems. If we can eliminate that part, that's eliminating waste as well.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about sustainability now. And I know you've been a big driver for green energy and being as sustainable as possible. Explain to us some of the things that you've done at Flexahopper. Flexahopper.
Sure, that's good. Yeah. Well, back in 2006, we had the time there was a Kyoto Protocol was the major accord, environmental accord in play. And for Canada, we had to be, I think it was 6% below 1990 levels of energy consumption. And again, earlier I mentioned about our process is not very efficient. And I looked at it and thought, well, there's opportunities for us here. Well, we looked at it and, for most manufacturers at the time, this was in 2006, getting an idea what your utility costs or your energy usage was back in those days, it's tough to find those records even. And we started to look at, what can we do to increase our efficiency? And one of the things we did right off the bat was we were dealing with a company called Bullfrog Power that would be buying green credits. So we have a lot of wind farms a lot of wind in our area. So we have these wind turbines, and there's a lot of solar in our area as well. So they would buy these electrons going into the grid that were generated green sourced, and they were selling those to companies like ours. And we decided right off the bat to try and get us into compliance with Kyoto as we went and purchased 100% of our electricity through this company. So all of a sudden, roughly about half my energy in my use or in my process was green sourced. And then over time, once you start to take that leap towards sustainability, you're going to find that there are a lot of things you can do. And we would also engage our workers on this too. And we found that as things progressed, we started to bring our consumption down. And then in 2017, we decided to build a big solar array on our roof. And it's a 508 panel. At the time, it was the largest solar array in the roto-moulding industry worldwide. Now that's 508 panels. I've got some friends of mine in the Netherlands that have a 1600 panel array on their factory roof. And when we actually, if you take a look at that whole area in this picture that has the solar arrays, that was an addition that we put on in 2004. And when we did it, we told the manufacturer of the building, we said, look, we may end up putting solar panels on this thing, so make sure the roof loading is ready for it. So it was really an easy process when we actually decided to go this way. But we found, since we've really started to shift towards sustainability, that we're starting to find now a client base that wants to hear that story too. And I think it's really important for consumers. They want to see that manufacturers or industry are also putting the environment on their balance sheet. And I think we've done a really good job of that. And we continue to try innovative things. I think it's a great process. And if you take a look at what we did when we put this solar array on our roof, I basically put it on a 10-year loan. And there are so many companies that want to be sustainable these days, including banks. And banks will lend to their clients special arrangements with their loans so that they're not using their operating line. They'll just be a separated loan if they want to finance some of these green projects. And what we did is we actually thought, okay, in 10 years, this thing will be paid off and we'll have another 20, usually the lifespan of these panels is 30 years. We'd have another 20 years of free power. Well, the first year that we had this in operation, which was actually only 11 and a half months because of our year end, we were going over the metrics at the end of the business year to see where we were. And my controller, who was working off site at the time because we were doing a big renovation to our office, he said, I'm working on the metrics and I'm kind of shocked on the solar. And I went, oh boy, I thought maybe it hadn't made the payments and we're having issues. He said, no. He said, we made all the payments and we saved another $29,500 in charges. And because if you have to think about it, when you are using grid connected electricity, you've got line charges, you've got administration charges. Those are all calculated on how much power you're bringing into your facility. And if you're generating a lot of your own green electrons, you don't have those charges. So it definitely has been a definitely a good business decision for us. And as we expand the building, we'll be adding additional solar capacity as well. And I think if you've got a strong balance sheet, these kind of projects are easy to put together. And it's also, if you think about, look, that picture that you saw there earlier with all those solar panels there, I can show that to clients, and that shows a real commitment to sustainability. You know, you can be recycling your cardboard, but that doesn't make a lot of you know, it doesn't get you a lot of good points with people that are thinking about, you know, working with suppliers that are sustainable.
Okay, what about your gas usage? Do you monitor your gas usage on each individual machine? And can you relate that to different products and different machines and their efficiencies?
Yeah, we've got one of our machines, we do have a dedicated gas meter on it. The other ones, we've got sort of a gas train where we can actually take it out and monitor it as required. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're loading up your machines properly, that you're actually, that's what's one of the things that we would determine from it. Make sure that you're not running a little part on an oversized machine. That's not a good way, not good use of energy. The other thing you can look at too is, you know, a lot of people don't realize how much waste energy they use because of poor conditions of their machinery, doors leaking, other issues. If you've got bad door seals on your ovens, you're going to be pulling in cold air, which is going to change the density of the air in your machine. You're going to have to introduce more heat, more gas consumption, but you're also utilizing more power to run the big circulating fans inside your oven because they're pushing colder air. And we determined that. I've spoken on the stage at many molding conferences to explain that there are a lot of things. If you've got poorly managed machines, you're going to be using a lot more energy than you need. So I think, you know, look at your machinery, make sure that it's well tuned. You're sizing the product mix well for that size of machine, and yeah, just watch your door seals. And if you know, we've got a thermal camera. We've had, I don't know how many thermal cameras we've had over the years. Thermal cameras will tell you where you're getting a lot of wastage. If you take a look at an oven, you'll see where you may have had some insulation that's dropped, and you're just pouring a whole bunch of power and gas into that to compensate for those problems.
Yeah, and that same infrared camera can show you help with your maintenance as well, because it can show you electrical problems and motor problems and help with preventative maintenance, I think. Yeah, have you found that as well?
Yeah, you know, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. I mean, at one time, these machines were very expensive. You know, a thermal camera was $10,000, and so we would hire someone to come into our factory, and I would just say, look, just spend an hour here, take a whole bunch of pictures, just whatever is of interest to you. And so they would also, when they would take pictures, the thermal images, they would also have an actual picture that would be the visible light version of that image. And you could identify where you had issues. In fact, we had one of the things that we found that was helpful for us on a business side is that our roof, we would have these leaks every once in a while. And you know, you might have a leak where the water is penetrating into your roof at one point, but the water travels along, goes 20 feet before it drops onto the shop floor. And we could actually trace those. And so we were able to put off spending a lot of money on our new roof by just having a thermal camera. But that's just one side use, looking at your process and seeing where there are other issues. And one of the things that I've tried to convince other molders about is that think about all this steel that you have, these big giant arms. If you look at some of our offset arms that we have, it's a push for our forklift to even lift these damn things. And oh, sorry, I said a bad word. But they, what happened was, you've got these heavy pieces of metal that are going inside these ovens that are absorbing all this energy. And when they come out and you're cooling that same product on that's on that arm, you've got this great big heat source, this arm that's radiating heat and fighting your cooling process. And so, people should think about jacketing, putting a thermal jacket on some of these arms that are so big. They might find a big difference in their consumption. They might drop 10%, 15%.
Okay, and as part of your sustainable image, are you running an electric car now, or does the company run electric vehicles?
Well, my controller, this is the thing, when we put the solar panels in, I didn't think I was going to have any takers. I said, anybody gets a plug-in car, we will charge it for free. And it wasn't until just last year that we got our first employee that actually had an electric car. I've had hybrid vehicles, but I haven't had a fully electric vehicle yet.
Okay,
but it's coming.
Hybrid's a good start. Yeah, hybrid's a good start. Okay, so just about your personal career, and what do you think your best or achievement has been with the business or with your personal career?
I think, when I think about the early days when I first came on board with the company and where it is now, there are times I'll walk out of my office and I'll look out in front of the building and I'll see this gigantic facility and things that we're doing and all these people that are working there. I think that it amazes me, just what we've been able to do. It's cool that we've been able to make some pretty innovative products. One of the things I would say on the business side that has really been great for us is that I've got a really strong team. I've got some what I would refer to as A players working for us. Management, engineering, research and development, production. I've been able to assemble, and sometimes by luck, sometimes by working hard at it, but getting the right people, it's made my business very enjoyable to be part of. I know a lot of companies, they struggle, dealing with all these different crises. And when you have good, capable people that have got the same goals, and that is to see this enterprise they're part of grow and flourish, I think, the sky's the limit when you can get people like that. So I think what I have pride in is that I've been able to refine the business, assemble a really good team. And, they talk about Flexahopper as a family business. None of my children are going to be involved in this business. There's no family in the business from my side, but these people feel like it's a family business. And that's a really good state to be in if you're trying to really motivate people and make them part of something that they can drive you to the next level.
Okay, and what advice would you give to people that have just started a roto-moulding company or thinking of coming into the roto-moulding industry?
I would say, and this is something that I didn't really figure out until later on, when I joined the business back in 81, I think it was the fall of 1982, my father took me to my first ARM meeting. So this is one of the affiliates that's part of ARMO. I went to this meeting, and it was in Boston. Beautiful setting. You could see the presentations were great. They had one of the workshops was called "What's Your Problem?" So molders could go and they could talk about any issues they had. And at the time, the industry or the Association of Rotational Molders was quite new. They had a lot of the founders would be in this room, and they would come up with all these suggestions on how to solve a problem. And I remember as a young engineer writing things as fast as I could. And I ended up going back into the same workshop again because I knew there'd be new problems. So I would say that I would suggest anyone make sure that you're going to conferences, that you're seeing what's out there. one of the things that's really nice is that if you can participate in some of these tours. I know that ARMA, the Australian Association, they have these roto tours. They go all over the world, and I've been probably through 70 plants because of some of those tours. When you get to go into another factory, you are going to learn so much. You're going to see how they do things different than you do. And prior to doing these type of events or going on these tours, we used to be sort of self-centered. We would come up with some ideas and we were very secretive. We didn't want to show people what we were doing. And we thought, at times we'd make something we thought was like cold fusion for roto-moulding and try to keep it so secretive. And then when you actually go through other factories, you go, okay, there's a lot of things being done out there that I never would have thought of. And I think I would try to, if I was, starting off in the industry again, I would say, learn to network with people, learn to work with the spirit of our industry. If you look at all of the affiliates in ARMO, everybody is working together. If you look at injection molding and other plastics processes, they won't be in the same room with each other, these competitors. You're going to be sitting at a table with competitors and you're helping each other build. We want to, instead of trying to take off that sliver of pie from the other guy, we just want to make the pie bigger. And that's the collaborative, the culture that we've got in our industry right now. So, embrace that. Get out of your comfort zone. Try to get to as many of these events as you can. Learn as much about the process. And I've got a whole list of colleagues. Martin, you're one of them. If I've had problems and I've called Martin, I said, I think I better call Martin. And it's great to have that network of colleagues that can help you if you do have a challenge.
Okay, and if you had a wish list on materials, what would you say to material suppliers that they can do to help the roto-moulding industry go forwards?
Well, I think some of them are doing some things in that regard. Some of them are working on more of the fast cure materials. We've done a lot of work with some of them through one of the companies in North America, and I know there are other resin suppliers are looking at it as well. So if you could reduce your cycle by 19% on the heat cycle, that's worth a lot to you. Take a look at some stiffness but also balancing it with impact properties. I think that the materials, and most of us are using polyethylene. I mean, there are other specialty materials out there, and we've worked with a lot of them. There's lots of challenges. It's a very specialized product you're building that has unique physical characteristics it has to have. Usually not a high volume thing. You're going to find most of your molding is going to be with some of these more common materials like polyethylene. But easier processing, like I said, the fast cure, where you've got a wider processing window. I would say some of the strengths for our industry is in design. I think we need more designers out there. That's the one thing that's key about this process, is that a lot of times people try to make products that they would make in steel. So they're limited to how they would actually fabricate something in steel. Whereas when you've got roto-moulding, you can make unique shapes that have got lots of different functions. And I think that, we need to get more industrial designers involved in our process to really help us take it to the next level.
Okay, and what about memories that you have of things you've done in the industry? Have you got good memories? Have you had a good time whilst you've been doing this?
Oh, I had a good time. I'm still in it. I'm still having fun. It's one of the times that and it wasn't too long ago. It was probably about 6 years ago. I was making a product that it was I think it was about a 450 kilogram part, very complicated geometry, very large. We had to pull it apart. There were actually 8 sections of the mold that we had to pull apart. And it's a big mold, so we had to make a special platform that we could lift the part out with all the components on it, drop it down, and then start to disassemble it a special way. It had to all be done. It had to be in a special metal frame. You couldn't just take that mold and put it on the arm and pull it apart with cranes and such. You had to have special apparatus for doing all that. Well, we'd had delays with the mold maker. We had delays with other issues on the design work. And we had the client coming down to visit us. And I was at a meeting and they had just pulled the first part out. And they're saying it's stuck. That's the first thing they told me. And I said, okay, try this, try this, try this. I had a bunch of different solutions for them. I walked out onto the shop floor and they had the last segment of the mold they were trying to pull apart. And I said, try doing this. And it popped open. And I walked back to tell my vice president, I said, hey, we got a part. And the door opened up to the front office, was the client coming in. So we had basically made the first part that they were all coming down for literally seconds before. And so those are, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie. I used to skydive and do all sorts of crazy stuff, but I get a charge out of seeing some of the products that we make for the first time. It's always fun.
Okay, I've got 1 or 2 questions coming in from the participants at the moment. One of them is do you try to formulate alloys and composites materials in-house for specific purposes, or do you rely on your suppliers doing that for you?
Both. We've developed some materials ourselves that we have a couple of extruders in our factory, and we also pulverize our material. So we can, for whatever application, and some of them are proprietary, but we have worked with compounders outside, but typically we'll do it ourselves.
Okay, and what do you see any future for composites? So incorporating fibers or fillers and things like that into material to gain not price advantage, but performance advantage?
You can. The one challenge that, and the thing is, if you're going to approach these materials, you better know what you're doing, and you better have the tools to be able to test it. One of the challenges with working with some of these composite materials or fibers or whatever is that you don't want to have them all migrating to the inside surface. You've got to make sure you've got a good mix. So what are you doing to be able to encapsulate these fibers? I mean, sometimes you can actually encapsulate these fibers so they're going to stick with the rest of the matrix of the resin. But you want to make sure that if you're working with these type of composite materials, that you've got good distribution and repeatability. And you know this, Martin, and I know this. We all learn it in roto-molding, is that when you think you have it going great, something happens and it changes. And you've got to really make sure you've got tight controls and be anticipating any of those challenges. We don't do a lot of work with fibers, but we've done some of that. But that was the challenge we had, was getting good distribution, making sure that you get the physical properties you were trying to get.
Yeah. Have you seen successful products in the marketplace that have fiber reinforcement?
Yes and no. A lot of them are aerospace applications, and we've done some work with one client, but I'm not at liberty to really talk about that stuff. So,
but you think there are products out there that are being rotomolded with fiber reinforcement successfully?
Yeah, and I think, and it's not new. They've tried this for many years. I think my dad, even when he was working for DuPont, they had tried some of these things. But the equipment, the materials have changed a lot since, and a lot of these ideas that were kind of abandoned before, sometimes it's fun to try and see if there's an application, and maybe if you're able to work with some of these materials, that you become a bit of an expert in it, and you may be approached by others. I mean, right now, we're seeing this big change in society towards electric vehicles. I have a feeling that hydrogen storage is going to be a bigger element to it than most people think. And I know friends that are working on some of these liners that they're actually using for hydrogen and other gases. They're going to require strong controlled materials. They're using a lot of filament windings to create some of the strength, but maybe there's some applications where you can do it in the material yourself.
Okay, another question that's come in, that you've obviously been talking about the fact that you're your export markets are growing, and someone's asked whether you've ever looked at a joint venture somewhere else in the world to produce the items closer to where they're required.
Yeah, we have. We've done that with a couple, and these are, again, developing colleagues and good friends in the industry, because I've been involved with our trade association. I was the chair of the RMO, just like you were, Martin. You get to know some capable molders, and we've actually done some products where, especially if it's a voluminous type of product, you can't really effectively export it, especially now with container prices the way they are. But you need to work with another molder, and we've done that. And it can be a successful thing. If you've got a product that's nestable, that's easy to ship, maybe it's not as immediate a concern. But if you do want to grow your markets, for sure, we've done joint ventures, and it's got to be the right company. It's got to be the right dynamics involved. And usually, what you end up doing is you'll end up doing some reciprocal business with them. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Okay, good. And we've obviously touched on this several times during our discussion, but about the future of electrically heated or oil heated tools, or directly heated tools, let's put it that way, rather than putting things into an oven. Have Flexahopper taken that step to that type of machine yet, or do you envisage them doing so?
We have taken some steps towards that, and we've done some well, we're actually working on some process technology right now that probably next year we're going to start talking about it. But I know that there's definitely going to be a challenge for industry. I know there are some mold makers out there now that are doing electrified molds. I think that's going to open up the door to many other types of products we could build with roto-moulding that we couldn't do with the conventional process. We'll have tighter controls. So yes, I think that's definitely going to be where there's going to be some future growth, and Flexahopper is already well entrenched in that effort.
Okay, and on the sustainability side, what about recycled materials? Are you using recycled materials in some of your products, or a percentage of recycled material?
We do when we have a client that requires it. Because if you're a good molder, you don't generate that much scrap, because we want to use our scrap to be able to, because we know where it's been, we know what it is. Sometimes when we've seen some materials from the industry, it may not be in the best shape. So we've limited the amount of recycling we've worked with, but we're also working with material suppliers who are trying to see if they can work with a wider stream of plastics that are being thrown out today, and with different melt indexes, trying to see if they can modify those to work with roto-moulding. And I think that's going to be exciting too.
I mean, there are rumors and things are beginning to happen in Europe already. Do you think in North America as well, they will start to legislate to make you incorporate some recycled material in some of the products?
Yeah, and we had our local government had actually, where they tried to put a motion forward. It ended up failing, that they said they wanted to have 15% of everything they procured in plastic to be have recycled component to it. And you need to be ready for that. So if there's a trade-off when you look at using some reprocessed materials, make sure you know what you're doing, that you're adding antioxidants if you're running it through a processor, because if you just run 100% recycled material, you're not going to have a very good physical property in that product. So we've got the capability. There are some clients that we actually produce some of their product with recycled grades, and I think there's going to be more and more of a push where you're just going to have to. And so you need to start working on your source of these materials and the tricks to actually working with them effectively.
Okay, so I think we're coming towards the end of our discussion now. Do you want to say anything in summing up, or just generally about the industry and where it's going in the world?
I would have to say I'm very hopeful for the industry. I've got a young management team that are going to take it to the next level. I think that there are a lot of young people out there that I'm very hopeful that they're going to consider roto-moulding as a career path. There's a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening, and the sustainability as well. So I would say, it's an interesting process, and I think it's got a great future.
Okay, good. Well, that's been a very informative as well as enjoyable discussion. Thank you very much, Bill, for everything you've discussed with us today. I hope our audience has enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
And that's the end of the session with Bill Spenceley, the president of the Flexahopper Plastics. Thank you very much, Bill. It's excellent, discussion with Martin together. Martin, special thanks to you for hosting this session. So we'd like to invite the next episode is on the with the Gary Littlegan. He's from the South Africa, one of the Roto Solutions. We'll be meeting him on 19th May. I invite you, all of you, to participate in this next episode of the Roto-Moulding Leadership with the Gary. And you can always watch all of our episodes on the Technobase channel and then on YouTube. Please check it out our website on YouTube for this episode. And also, if you missed the past episode with Mr. Jalal Baisal, he's the CEO of the Flotex Turkey. It's also available on YouTube and our Technobase channel. Please check it out if you're interested in this. Okay. Thank you all for joining this session today on the Roto-Moulding Leadership with Bill Spenceley, president of the Flexahopper. I hope you find it really useful. I hope you learned something. Definitely a lot of insights he has given in this discussion together with Martin. Thank you all for participating.